Hello, friends, and welcome to Seekers of the Eternal podcast, episode number 56, with my good friend John Sarvis, who's the owner of the Smile Sanctuary in Dade City, Florida. And John's property, over the last couple of years, has become home to the Kamentsa Inga Ayahuasca Church. And so this property has become very much a healing space for retreat. And the Kamentsa Inga Church has become sanctioned as a church and is ordained to serve ayahuasca as a sacrament. And the taita that comes from the Amazon in jungles in Colombia has been serving medicine for 23 years. And also in episode 51, you heard Monica Vasquez, who is part of that group as well. This space has become a great place for us to all meet, but over the last few months here, with the 3 storms that have hit Florida, John's property has been completely devastated. There was over 13 feet of water that flooded his space there, and the retreat center, and the home that's built there on the property. And it's now in the process, the water has just now receded and is in the process of just starting to rebuild again. So there's a link for anyone who feels called to donate to help with this project. But most of all in this conversation, I wanted to share John's good vibes. I wanted to share his resilient spirit, his ability to roll with the punches, and also his transformation. I've seen such incredible growth in John from using the medicine, from being a part of this ayahuasca circle, and for heeding the call to take on this mission of this space. And it's really been incredible seeing his transformation and his growth and seeing his resilient spirit. In this podcast, he drops a lot of wisdom, a lot of things that I think will be very inspiring for all of us listening here. He talks about how we can, if we're thinking something negative, we have the ability to change and think to something positive. You know, it's so simple. We do have this ability, and we just get so caught up and in a habitual thought patterns of the way things are, but we can make those changes. He also tells an incredible story, this recent ayahuasca ceremony that I was a part of with him. He tells an incredible story that he had a visionary experience there where he was totally decimated and reborn again. And I think this is going to be a wonderful conversation here for this Thanksgiving weekend and holiday time, where we are challenging ourselves to become grateful for everything that happens in life, even if we can't see the reasons why it's happening, to have an inner sense of joy and curiosity, and to watch it like a movie, and to know that the divine has plans for us. And even if we can't see why things happen the way they do, to stay faithful, to stay positive, and to keep moving forward even when things look grim. I was quoting this affirmation from Nayaswami Jyotish last night. He says, "I am grateful for my life exactly as it is. I am thankful for this day. I welcome every hour. Thank you, God. Thank you, God."
Seekers of the Eternal podcast, episode 56, with John Sarvis of the Smile Sanctuary.
Well, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah.
Today we have my good friend John. So a couple of years, there's been ayahuasca ceremonies hosted on his land. It's been wonderful getting to be at your place and getting to know you over this time.
I was so fortunate. It was amazing how things just happened to lead up to that. Pretty magical, actually. Yeah, felt very fortunate. It's been one of the coolest things I've ever experienced in my life. I'm so grateful for it, too.
Yeah, it's interesting how things come to us at certain times in our life and just end up making such a big difference.
I would have never thought, but
Yeah. 3 back-to-back storms, hurricanes have hit this area, and the beautiful space that we were all falling in love with and that he was building up and creating, outdoor bathrooms and showers. And there's this wonderful property for ceremonies, a place of healing, has just been completely underwater, 13 feet of water. I know that this has been a huge change in plans for you and for the way that things are going. So yeah, I'd love to dive into this story. And so he mentioned Kamentsa Inga, which is the ayahuasca group that comes to his property every 2 months with our Taita Hector Ortiz that comes from Colombia.
What's that website?
Yeah, ayahuascayahe.com. And I'll put that link there at the bottom so you guys can go check it out. We're in the Tampa area. They also come to South Florida. They go to New Hampshire, Georgia, California.
They make the rounds. They stay busy.
Yeah.
As well as going back to the Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
There's some really cool Amazon trips, which I haven't been able to go on yet, but I will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this group, they host ceremonies in the Amazon jungle, and then Taita is just traveling every single weekend.
But they're from the Amazon. They're from the Columbia. It's home for them.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so cool to be able to be a part of this, and John is a big part of what this group is doing here in Florida and offering his property. So yeah, I thought maybe we'll start with just a little bit of your background and the way that this property that you have came into existence. I know it's called the Smile Sanctuary.
Yeah. And Smile Sanctuary.
You had originally had ideas for, what that would be, and then maybe we could talk about, like what it turned into.
Yeah. My daughter had shipped off to the Army, and I was by myself at our old home, which was a 4-bedroom house in Palm Harbor. And, I was looking for something a little different. Wanted to kind of semi-retire from the entertainment industry. I work as a stage technician for the last 18 years, and wanted to go to the woods. And I was thinking of like what I could do. The Airbnb things were real big, and I was thinking, man, wouldn't it be nice to have a creative space for like artists to get creative and do like rock and roll Airbnb or artist retreat Airbnb space. So I started looking. I sold my house. Ironically, the same day I was selling my house and they were closing, COVID went into lockdown. We had to actually wear masks and stay in separate rooms and do all of this closing. Then I was homeless with a bunch of money in my pocket, and I couldn't shop for another home because they wouldn't allow you to. So I went to Clearwater Beach and got a place down there. And my friend from Molly Hatchet called me. This was kind of funny. He was like, hey, man, I'm fighting with my girlfriend. I'm going to come over and crash on your couch. I said, I don't have a couch anymore. You go, what? I go, I sold my house. I'm down at the beach. So he came down, and we waited that out and a year before we could even look for houses. So, which ironically at the beach, all these people came from all over because everything was closed, and I didn't see one sick person the whole time. We had a great time, and there were like nobody had colds or even sniffling, which was kind of funny, but that's a whole nother podcast. So I was looking around and found this magnificent spot. I was like, oh, so beautiful. Was able to purchase it, but Airbnb was closed. You couldn't do any type of Airbnb, and you couldn't even get people together legally. So I actually migrated into drum circles. Somebody approached me that was doing some drum circles. So we got into this rotation with a Go With the Flow group who helped me name the place the Secret Smile Sanctuary, a guy named Chris. And it was really, really cool community I was introduced to. And through those people, I was introduced to Monica and Taita Hector. They, people approached me, like, would you be interested in possibly doing some ceremonies? Which at first I was kind of reluctant because I was like, yeah, I know a little bit about ayahuasca. I don't know, it's something you don't just do it recreationally. So I was kind of a little like, okay, well, I'll talk to these people. After talking to them, I could tell they were the real deal, Taita Hector's. Taita at that time for the Inga tribe for 20 years. Now I think it's 23 years. It was going on 21 years, I think, at the time. And Monica And they were actually looking at some other places too. And they said, they came and talked to me and they said, well, we'll get back to you, and let you know what our decision is. There's some other places we're looking at. And they got back in touch with me and were like, yeah, we'd like to, have a go at it at your place. And that's how it all started, man. I fell in love with the medicine and everything. And what really got me is the people that just come for that medicine are just the most amazing people. And watching what the medicine does and how it helps people to heal and just the individual stories and how the medicine works individually on everybody. I was just amazed by it. Of course, drinking it myself, the results I personally have. It's what a cool thing. And then Kamesh, everything's kind of gone, which is kind of fitting for what we're going through right now with the solar stuff. It's like a rebirth going into Aquarius and stuff like that. So it's kind of like it's some crazy times. It's like the property's being renewed. Hopefully, we're going to get it back together soon. It's going to be a process. That's where we are now, but.
Yeah, I wanted to bring you on too. Is like I love your attitude and your just ability to kind of roll with what happens and to keep an open mind and to see where things want to go. You seem to sort of innately have that way of being about you.
Yeah, just process it, move on. Have a little tear, a little cry, say goodbye, and then just start to embrace what's next. My life has been an adventure. For those around me as well as myself, for years, just some of the amazing things that I've done and experienced, and it just seems so fitting.
Yeah.
We can get into all that some other time, maybe.
Yeah. I'd love to hear about when you started doing the ceremonies on your property there. Was that your first experience with ayahuasca specifically?
My very first experience. I had known a little bit about it. From what I've heard, I was thinking it was like some big prolonged DMT experience, which is so not right. Like when you watch some of these documentaries, the thing that they always highlight is it's going to be this psychedelic experience, which is so not true in a lot of cases. It's, for me personally, most of the time, it was not highly psychedelic. It was more like torture. With a love-hate relationship. I mean, you go through it, it does some cleansing. Most of the things that I got out of ceremony came afterwards. So many things in my life just changed all on their own, from a sex and drug and rock and roll lifestyle I was very content with, actually. I knew that I was doing myself some harm, but the medicine kind of changed all that. Like some of the things like smoking and drinking, I'm not going to say I quit any of that. It kind of quit me, and I'll have a cigar sometimes still. I'll have a drink still, but I don't do anything in excess. I don't have the urge to do anything in excess. The whole what do I need feeling is like gone. It's like the medicine has brought me back to self. It's a race, the effects of media, and the effects of TV, and the effects of commercials and society, and the human condition, you don't realize those effects until you start doing something like the medicine and it starts stripping away all of this programming. It becomes so evident of how I was programmed and how I was taken away from self and molded into this belief system that I'm flawed or that I'm mortal and, I need something external to make me happy. And the medicine shows me that's actually just not true. It takes all of that programming away. Matter of fact, everybody looks like robots kind of now. I see the programming so evident, and it just takes me back to the self I was born with, where I didn't feel the need for anything because you realize you're not flawed. You're actually superhuman, and you have these abilities, and you can do all of these things. And so it just helps you to grow in those ways. It's amazing what the medicine has shown me. So instead of taking me on these psychedelic adventures, which I don't need, what I needed was going back to self and having this stuff stripped away. Now, I did. I have had a couple of psychedelic experiences, most of them brief. However, the last ayahuasca experience I had, I was in for a little bit of a ride.
Yeah. I think it would be fun to talk about that one. And I agree with you on with ayahuasca, like people who haven't done it, or you heard stories, and yeah, most of the time, what you hear about is okay, is this psychedelic
So many people,
adventure that
I don't know if I'm ready for a trip like that.
yeah.
It's
It's nothing of what you think it is when you get there, and
not at all a trip. It's work. They call it doing the work.
Mhm.
So you put the work in that ceremony, and then the medicine kind of works afterwards, and just starts handling things spiritually, mentally, and physically, whatever you need personally. Everybody's completely different. Some people do come to ceremony and they have psychedelic experiences every time.
Mhm.
But that's what they need. They need to go on that journey. But some people don't. And so it's very personalized. And every time is different. Every person's experience is different. So one person can't tell you what you're going to experience in ceremony. They can only tell you what they've experienced. So,
Mhm.
which makes it so special is how it's personalized. It's if you're doing something like mushrooms or different things, you kind of, you take this much, you're going to have this much of a reaction. And it's pretty much, you know what to expect, and you can enhance it or by taking more or less. That medicine doesn't work like that.
It seems to be like even like whatever amount that you took or whatever. Sometimes it doesn't really seem to matter so much, and I I know from us being in ceremony together several times, and my experience with it too is that yeah, this is hard work, and you always get to, no matter how many times you've done it, you get to a point in the ceremony you're like, why do I do this?
You know what? It's so funny, but we come back and do it because it's like a tune-up. It just keeps you in balance, and just like you get something every time, something new, or something gets taken away, like an anxiety gets taken away, or new knowledge comes to you, or just you just it's a very special medicine, very powerful medicine. And it has to be done with a shaman, really. It should be, because shaman really knows how to move the energy. So this last ceremony, kind of going through it, everything that pretty much I owned and had been taken away. So I've come to the realization, okay, I might be living in a van down by the river.
Yeah, this is the time. It's like I came and met John, and we couldn't meet at his place like we normally do, so we were at another
It's
place.
literally under 13 feet of water. I'm canoeing up to my home, and there's 3 feet of water in my living room throughout the entire house. And so can't really have ceremony there.
Right?
So we go to this beautiful property, Ingrid's property in Tampa, which is a whole other just beautiful place too. Um, but so the first night of ceremony, I have my first 2 cups, and normally when I'm in ceremony, like the medicine for me just like energizes me. I start bouncing off the walls. It's like I remember the first ceremonies that Monica couldn't keep me in my seat. I have swings and contraptions out on my property. I was climbing stuff, chains up into the trees, like just like wandering off over by the water.
Yeah, see, you turned into like a great ape in the jungle.
Big problem. So it's interrupting other people's like concentration. I had no idea, it was just like, but so normally I get really energized, but for some reason the medicine was just knocking me out. My third cup too kind of gave me some of that jungle, like the super thick stuff. So I thought, okay, this is gonna send me to the rails. Just put me under. I woke up and purged, but it was like I felt like Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz when she comes across the poppy field, and she just like, oh, they all go to sleep. It's like that's my eyes were just, I could not keep them open for the life of me. Went home, slept the entire day, couldn't stay awake. Got back to ceremony. It's the next night, and I drink my first 2 cups, and as I'm drinking these, my body just starts really hurting. Throughout my life, I've had some traumatic injuries, broke my back, broken leg, broken ribs, herniated discs, broke my face on both sides at different times. And it seemed like all of my old injuries, it's like feeling the pain of everything that ever happened to me. Like, where's all this pain coming from? It's like I feel every injury I've ever had. And I start seeing like these little visions that first it looked like pieces of hamburger or something, but then I noticed it looked like chromosomes, like just floating around in space, like around me, like coming off of me, like little pieces. So I go up, it's time for the third cup, and Monica's like, "How are you feeling?" I'm like, "It seemed like hamburger, and like I feel like I'm being ground into pieces, and I don't feel good at all. I'm in a lot of pain." And she's like, "Okay," and I drink the third cup, and I go sit down, and it felt like I was like having a chrysalis built around me. Like all of a sudden, I was like just all this pain, and then I were growling. These growls, I felt like I was like this dragon inside was trying to get out. And as this is happening, I just start seeing pieces like just coming apart. Like I'm just coming apart, like all of these chunks, like hamburger, and my chromosomes, and I fell down to the earth, and I just started hugging the earth, and I'm in all this pain, and I'm like, what is happening to me? And I just see myself being ripped apart. And about this time, here comes Taito with the shakers, and they move the energy and stuff. And I hadn't purged yet that night. And sometimes I don't purge, pretty good at holding it in. But he comes up laying on the ground, he starts doing his shakers, and oh, here comes the medicine. I feel it. So I jump up, and I didn't have a chance to even go anywhere. It was like that quick. I just start purging. And as the medicine's coming out, it was almost like an instantaneous thing. The pain as I'm just purging is going away, and I'm just all these pieces are coming back out of space, putting me back together, and I just felt so powerful all of a sudden. I'm like, wow, what is going on here? And I felt like I was reincarnated with some Mayan warrior or something, and I was like, back, and I was so strong, and I just yelled. I was like, yeah. Like, and I looked at Titan and I go, what the F just went down here? This is freaking crazy. And here's Titan. He's like got all of his garb. He's got his big cigar and he's puffing on. He's like, is he crazy? He's looking at me like, was that crazy or was that real? And I was like, what the F? And then Monica's like, what happened? And I said, I explained, I got ripped completely apart and it felt like I got put back together. So she's translating this to Taita. His English isn't very good. And he tells her, oh, this is good. His DNA has been rearranged and put back together for big things that are coming. He needed to be put back together. So they're telling me that my whole DNA has been restructured and like put back together. And I was like, wow, that's so that was my experience, not normally having psychedelic experiences, but from what was going on in my life, this is what I needed was to be reconfigured for the things that are coming. And so I think that's part of my whole outlook is just the medicine gives me that ability to just be okay with it. And like so okay with it that recently, so people around me have been getting letters in the mail about their homes that if you're over 50% ruined, that you have to level your home, or if you rebuild it out of pocket, you have to jack it up like 3 feet up to the new flood levels and all this stuff. So my house actually would have, according to this letter, have to be jacked up 3 feet higher than it is, as well as having to bear the burden of all the cost of this stuff. If I can't bear the burden of the cost, then I have to knock it down at my expense. And then not only that, then you're not even allowed to camp on your property for more than 6 months at a time. So I'm coming to the realization, okay, they're just taking everybody's properties and there's nothing I can do. So I come to the conclusion, well, I guess I'm just going to, lose everything. And I was kind of trying to make myself okay with that, thinking about what am I going to do. And I was thinking maybe I'll just go to the jungle for a year and try to find myself. And then one of my friends called me this morning. He was at a meeting and said, hey, guess what? He's one of my neighbors. He's also on stilts. He says, all the stilt houses are exempt from that. I was like, really? He's like, yes, it's only the houses that are on foundations, not on stilts. So it doesn't apply to your house or mine. I was like, that's great. So went from realizing that I was probably just going to have to give up everything I own and just making myself okay with that to, I guess maybe I don't. So what a ride that was. Didn't feel like putting a bullet in my head or anything like that when I was losing everything. I was just, I was oddly okay with it if that's the way it was going to be. And just saying, okay, well, let's see what life has for us. Evidently, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What an amazing thing. Life is crazy. Or is it crazy?
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's like, it makes me think about it. Just like all of the time that's been preparing you for this moment where maybe before that moment you couldn't have handled it.
Right.
That would have happened.
Yeah. I definitely would have been on a bender.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Definitely would have been on a pretty good bender.
Yeah. That's what it seems like. The medicine for me too. It allows us to be able to be uncomfortable and be comfortable with being uncomfortable. To know that things come in waves.
Society teaches us that, if this happens, you react this way. You get knee-jerk reactions to all of these things instead of processing emotion and just, going through it and processing it. Society and things teach us, no, you don't. You act out and you do this and you go postal or this is the normal reaction. But the medicine teaches us that that's just not true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what a gift! Like, what a valuable gift. I know before I had experience with meditation and with medicine, you would hear about people being able to do things like this, like, oh, my house burnt down. There's a story of Thomas Edison where his factory, where it was like this enormous factory where it had all the labs and everything that they were doing, and the place burns down, and he invites his whole family to come watch. You'll never see a fire like this again.
Right. It's so funny because as I'm paddling up to my house one day, and this is like just to check on things, see if the water's gone down, which it had, and it's still 3 feet high all throughout my house. But as I'm paddling up, I'm thinking how beautiful this is. I'm paddling through the treetops, like it's just this giant lake in the treetops, and I thought, it's so unfortunate, all of the damage, but look at this crazy beauty that I'm paddling through. How am I ever to see it through those eyes? It's amazing that I could see the beauty in the destruction, and that's a gift.
Mm-hmm.
For
It
sure.
gives me goosebumps just thinking about that. Yeah, it's like that simultaneously, like, wow, like I'm just paddling up to tops of trees, and this is so surreal, like a dream, how amazing this is. But at the same time, like if you could be losing your mind, freaking out, yelling, but it's like I think that's what this podcast and a lot of what Yogananda's teachings and what I've been studying is that this calmness is invincibility. If we can remain calm and find something beautiful amidst the pain, amidst the suffering, find something beautiful and just keep going. And
There's always beauty all around.
Mm-hmm.
And it's right in front of your face.
Mm-hmm.
But we're taught to ignore the beauty and to see the pain. Everything. It's always destruction, doom and gloom, and everything that's highlighted throughout your daily life. If you really look at the media and just everything, it highlights the destruction that's going on, highlights the pain that people are going through, highlights the killing, the separation. There's no highlighting the beauty. It's methodical that they do this to us. And, things like the medicine just peel that right away. It makes you immune to that.
Yeah, that's what it seems like in life in general, is just trying to keep us trapped in worries and fears and doubts and reactions and all of that. But like we know from you go through something like this, and there's so many great stories of people coming together to help one another, of great life lessons that happen. And ceremony is just like you do it in 2 nights. You can take almost like 10 years of your life and make it in like 2 nights, where you go through all of these ups and downs and you face your biggest fears, and then you come out of it, hugging your brothers and sisters and being so happy just to see the sunrise again, and all the things that we learned and grown, even though we've been puking in a hole and feeling all the pains you can imagine. But in the morning, you're like, oh, that was great. I can't wait to do it again tomorrow. And I think that's what life can be about when we just live it in that way. So,
Yes.
yeah. So hearing examples like yours.
Face it all.
Mhm.
There's beauty in everything, even in death, even in destruction. There's a certain beauty in it. Rebirth is all a time of rebirth. Can't wait to see where it takes us and what we can hopefully rebuild this into, And I want to thank too that, gosh, all the support, different people. I know my daughter started a GoFundMe and stuff, and so many people have supported me through that. And it's just like amazing the friends I have, just the community and the support. So we're going to rebuild it one way or another. We're going to, see it through, figure it out.
Yeah, there's a link at the bottom here that I'll put for the GoFundMe. So if anybody feels called to help support and help us to rebuild this Smile Sanctuary back again for the ceremonies, that would be hugely appreciated. And I like, it's the connections with people that just have made this so amazing.
Or just the even, it's not even the money. It's just the people that, just the words of support that are amazing. And just the amount of people and the sincerity of caring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So beautiful.
Yeah, it's amazing the friendships that come, and the genuine sincerity and the love that you feel from each other, and having a community. And it feels like we can get through anything if we got each other, if we're able to call on each other, and people come to help us. And the good karma that you have for, I know, all the efforts that you put to make that place even better for all. I know every time I would come back, there's like, you've done something new to the property and making that into a place of healing that so many people have come. And I mean, the stories that people tell there of the things that they brought to ceremony, the baggage they were carrying, and then releasing it. I mean, that there's so much good karma on that land now from all the healing that's been happening there. And then for you really stepping into this and keeping yourself calm and not losing your mind, it's just like a law of the universe that starts coming back to you in that way. So it's so really interesting to see that happening for you.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a wonderful thing to be able to be a part of that. And I think in our lives, when we don't have times where we get together to really just help one another to evolve and to heal, how often in our life before we had these things, we had this community, how often did you have like such deep conversations and helping one another and getting into like really just being able to support and uplift each other and have better ways of communicating and hugging each other and really being there. It's just it's really,
I love you.
Like, right.
They're complete strangers, but feeling it, it's so cool.
Yeah, I think before I started doing ayahuasca ceremonies, I really wasn't someone who would make conversations with strangers. I was a little more kind of standoffish. But then it really broke me open in that way. And I love too how Taita, at the end of the ceremonies, we still have small groups, maybe like around 20, a little over 20 or something like that, where at the end we still have enough time where we can go around and hear everyone's story. Like, what was something that most, that you would like to share with the group, and getting to hear everybody report back of the thing that, that they got out of it those parts are some of my favorite moments in the ceremony. And
that is definitely my favorite moment. That's love to hear everybody's stories. It makes me cry after time, but it's just it's so touching, and it makes you feel so fortunate that you can even provide a space for something like that to happen. It's like the coolest thing on the planet, man.
Mhm.
How did I get so lucky to be able to host this? Out of how many ayahuasca churches are there in Florida? There used to be two, now there's one, and I'm lucky enough that I get to host one. I mean, it just how does that work out? What a journey that my life has been, and I can't wait to see where it goes from here.
Yeah. Yeah, that divine planning that seems to be running in the background, and everything that you've done, everything over all of these years has just led up to that.
Yeah.
All the synchronistic events, all of the conversations, all the people, whatever.
For the experiences I've had, I mean, I was like, growing up, I was like, I gotta experience it all. I just want, I've, traveled extensively when I was younger and fished in the Bering Sea, experiencing live shows, just experiencing nature, just every little bit of it. And then the icing on the cake is ayahuasca. Yeah, hey, definitely puts things in perspective with everything that I've experienced and all the different walks of life that I've experienced, and just bring it all together with the medicine. Pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like I feel like we go through that hero's journey in our life of going outward and seeking all the adventures and places and
looking for all this satisfaction through all these different things, and then being taught later on, see what all you've done. And that's not what makes you happy. Here's what, now you can go inside.
Right. Learn that you can have it as profound and more just by sitting, going inward.
Right.
Could, from going to the most beautiful sunset on the side of whatever cliff, or whatever place in the world. Yeah.
It's always been right there. It's never outside.
Mm-hmm. And I think we have to go through too, like that adventure first. Sometimes it's like going out and realizing, okay, I got so many of the things that I wanted. I've traveled to all these places. I've done all of these things. And somehow still it didn't fill that void that I was seeking after, and finding out that, okay, obviously when we're in a beautiful place, we're traveling, enjoying those things is wonderful and fantastic. But then when we realize that we can have it within, because those things don't last, that's the problem. It's like the sense pleasures, they're fun for a little while, but then after a little bit, we lose the high.
So yeah, it's like, so you're taught that you go to school, you learn these things, you get a career, you have a family, you buy a house, you save money, and if you do all of this, you'll be happy. So you do all of that, and then you get a divorce or a tragedy comes and it takes all of that away. What happens to you? Do you go away with it? So that's, and you see so many people that are wrecked. That just wrecks them because their belief was, that was my happiness. That was me. Now I can't have happiness because it's gone. It's just not true.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it might be looking back, a lot of times people say, like, if that didn't happen, I would have never found this happiness that I have now. Like when you lose it all, and then that's what happens to us if we put all of our security into those things. Life is going to come take those away and show you that this is not where your happiness really lies, and to realize that, yeah, like you said, you're still around even when you lose everything that you dreaded that could come true, all of your worst nightmares. If it actually happens, you're still here. And what are you going to do about it? You're gonna lose your mind and scream and complain and all of this. Or if you can start practicing now with things like obviously there's a plethora of all different things in the world now that we know about, that from breathing exercises to ice baths to medicine ceremonies and meditations, all of that.
Jumping in cold water every morning lately and taking advantage of this cold weather. And the hotel that I'm staying at, their pool, and the pool at my daughter's where I stayed this morning. I'm really loving that cold water every day. Yes, I love the ice bath.
Yeah, that's such a great one to practice with.
You could
because
get
it's
one of those like the tub, so that in the summertime when there's no cold water around, I'll have access to it. But I just love just jumping in and just sinking to the bottom and just freezing. Just freezing myself.
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah, that's practice for life, right? It's like, okay, if I can freeze myself.
Everybody looks at me like I'm insane. Like, how are you doing that? But it's like, if you start doing it, you'll love it. It's really,
Yes.
really neat.
Yeah. Practice being uncomfortable. I think that's definitely what we're recommending here. The more that you
Finding comfort in uncomfortability.
Mhm.
But I'm actually losing some weight from it. I think it's activating my brown fat, eating up all my white fat.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's doing those things that are hard on purpose. And then once these things happen to us in life, we can be like, okay, well, this isn't quite as bad as sitting on the bottom of a frozen lake. I can handle this, or I'm not puking and like feeling like I'm being ripped apart right now. I'm okay.
Yeah, it's nothing. Have you been frozen, ripped apart, put back together?
They seem smaller when they happen to us. And also, like I talk a lot about in our guided meditations. John came in to one of our the guided meditations we do at Roots to Ground.
My first real, so I've been trying to meditate. I was like, I got to come to one of these guided meditations just to try to get my feet wet, because it's so hard for me to sit still and like be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
It was great.
Yeah.
I started so I remember you saying that when you started meditating, if I got this correct, you just decided that you would do it every day for a year and see what happened. And then at the end of the year, you would see such benefit. So I've been trying to do that in the morning, just sit still with the sunrise and try to get some of that infrared sunrise light. Just sit still and breathe and see what happens.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, it's like any amount of time that you can dedicate to it, if you do it every day. And it took me a while to get to the point where I was doing it every day. But then one day it hit me as just like, the thing to do is just do this every day in a short period of time and build. And as long as I just check in every morning and I do a practice, then I'm on my way, that I'm doing it.
That stuff
feel good
when you said that. So
yeah, and just make it something that's fun for you, that's attainable. Like I think a lot of what happens is people make too big of goals at first, of like, oh, I'm going to meditate for half an hour or an hour every morning. And then that becomes too much. And it's just like, well, make yourself a code. Maybe it's like, okay, I will at least meditate for 5 minutes every day. Longer is better, but every day something, I will sit and just watch my breath. And it could be, even if you're very busy, it could be like, okay, 3 conscious breaths in the morning. When I wake up, I'm going to take 3 conscious breaths and just do something every day, and it will build.
So that's funny, because like sometimes when I'm falling asleep, I'll go, oh, I didn't meditate. So I'll meditate in bed before I go to sleep, or when I wake up in the morning, like in that half sleep, half awake, I'll try to meditate. Sometimes I fall back asleep, but try to just use that time just to give gratitude and just do a little breathing. And I think, like I was first like, I think I'm meditating right. How do you meditate? What is it? But it's just breathing. Just breathe. Try to clear your head and breathe.
Yeah,
So
you're just paying attention to the breath.
Like always, this question about, well, what am I supposed to be doing? It's like, there's never really, oh, just breathe. It's like, what? That can't be it. But I guess that's just it. You just breathe in and out through your nose and try to clear your head. Let's start with that.
Yeah, if you're just watching the breath, feeling the breath, you're doing it. And yeah, like what you said there, at night, like, oh, I didn't meditate. If you're just, checking in every day because we have spiritual amnesia. We think we're these bodies. We think we're these names, these personalities. But meditation helps us to remember, well, oh, okay, I can push pause on the movie, on my body, my personality, and I don't have to actually think about my problems for whatever period of time that I'm giving myself. Like, it's amazing that we all don't just want to do this all the time. That's, I think, the big trick is we've gotten so used to thinking I have to worry about all the things in life, and I can't even take 5 minutes to stop worrying about my life for that minute.
We work way too much. I was watching something. It was a native or somebody. They were like walking out in the jungle, and it was just like about like how we are not meant to be working 9 to 5 every day, committed to some corporation or something, and just like doing this is just so unnatural that it just does something to us. We are meant to be outside, playing in the earth, growing things, enjoying beauty. We're not supposed to be in a building all day behind a screen or just having a boss yell at me or having to worry about how am I going to make my bills. It's just we put ourselves into this such an unnatural environment, and we convince ourselves that this is normal. And it's so not normal.
Yeah, and then do we just need to do something different that isn't
Right.
our normal, and then it breaks us out of that and helps us to see it in a different way. And yeah, sometimes it really doesn't take much. You just start small, start with whatever, and then also the synchronicities just will align. If you start, if you're hearing this and you're just like, okay, I'm going to start by just taking 3 conscious breaths in the morning. I'm going to do something every day. If you do that, you will be on a journey. You will you'll meet somebody, and something new things will start coming into your lives. And then like me, before I know it, I'm initiated into Kriya Yoga. I'm a disciple of Yogananda. I never saw that happening for me in this lifetime. I was I was playing in metal bands, just making street art, making artwork, and traveling, and all that kind of stuff.
I want to tell you something. This is the first time I've been over to Chris's place here. Man, but it's like, so it reminds me of the Pink Floyd thing. Are these all your guitars? It's like, is this all your art? It's like, there's just surrounded by the most amazing art. And it's like, gosh, what a cool dude, what a talent, man. It's like, it's so neat being over here and just surrounded by so much beautiful stuff.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate
Really
that.
cool. Yeah, what a testament to just your creativity. Really neat feeling to be surrounded by such creativity.
Oh, appreciate
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel very blessed to be able to have been on this creative journey and to make this work, and my wife supporting me through all of this, and also too just taking these risks similarly of I had an agent in New York, and I was doing, I was on a certain path, and like a lot of us during COVID and the lockdowns, it's like, well, what am I really supposed to be doing here? What is my real mission in life? And so I've turned everything kind of upside down, and started doing this podcast, started guiding really the meditation. I never meant to start guiding friends in meditation. People just started showing up at my studio. I had one that I was mentoring for art, and I would meditate there. So when she was over, she started meditating with me. And then when she left, she invited another friend, and that friend invited another friend. And all of a sudden, I have a meditation group, and I never meant to do that at all.
It adopted you.
Yeah. And then it's like, okay, well, it's like now combining all of these seemingly different worlds with the art career and all of these kind of things into, I mean, the reason why I got into meditation in the first place was I heard that you could use meditation to invite visions, to be able to invite your creative muse to come in and show you things and to inspire you. So I really started meditating for that reason. So I wanted it to be a creative endeavor. and learned that really is possible, that you can ask for inspiration, you can do certain techniques to invite inspiration. And so that was what originally started bringing it into my artwork, changing my artwork. I started getting interested in deities and chaos magic and psychedelics and all these different things. So it's fun. It's like, and it's going to be for you specifically. It'll be for everybody that starts this journey of, just doing something, like what we're talking about is that, like, do something where you're just every day checking in, and you will be on this adventure, and years down the road, you'll be like, how did I get here? What is going on? Because you're just you're led by your inner muse that's always been with you. You can think back to, like, how did I get to where I'm at now? And think back, like, there was something guiding you every step of the way. Oh, this property, I want to get that for the Airbnb. And then that didn't work out. And then you just kept following the clues without getting upset about
getting
not
flow
going the right way.
I guess, just going with the flow. Yeah, the universe will push you in the right direction. You got to learn to read the signs, don't fight it. I think about how I was trying to force different things. Oh, I want this, I want that. And things kept happening to stop this or that. And then you just go, ugh. And then all of a sudden something happens. Oh, but an opportunity opened up over here. Wow, should have just went with the flow. And the reason this isn't working is because it's not supposed to work. So change direction, change direction, change direction. We're not going to let this work. It's not going to work. Get it through your head. Oh, okay. Here's where I'm supposed to go. Stop fighting it. Just get it flow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my teachers at Ananda, she's Anaya Swami Asha, she says that whenever you're going through a challenge in life, say to yourself, whatever it is that you're trying to teach me, help me to learn it, and quickly.
Right. So I can quit abusing myself.
Yeah. It's just trying to show you that maybe you should go this other direction, but the only way that it could show it to us was in the way that it happened. Like, that is the best way that it could happen, even if it feels like the worst thing in the world.
Right.
It is the best thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love getting to have friends like you that are living examples of this, so that we don't just talk about it. It is like actually happened to you, and you're still smiling, and you're still keeping a positive attitude. And I know that,
no matter what, life is good. It's, how fortunate. I mean, I live in a country to where, there's always food on the table. There's always opportunity. I'm not walking 25 miles to a mud hole to get parasite-ridden water and take it back to my camp.
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? To my house made out of dung, which doesn't, not for nothing, those people enjoy that, and a lot of happiness in that life. How can they have happiness? You know what I mean? If they can, then I can. Definitely, so it's all perspective. It's all in the way you see things. So if something making you or creating a conflict in your mind or something, change your perspective. Just see it differently. You'll be fine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I started running out of things that bother me a long time ago, just when I realized that just by simply changing my perspective, I can change my emotion. Choose an emotion you like, you'll feel better.
Mm-hmm.
You can just simply do that by changing your perspective, create a different emotion, see things differently through someone else's eyes. When you see things through others' eyes, it creates compassion, allows you to see things differently. It's not always about your eyes, it's other people's eyes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it reminds me of something that Joseph Campbell said, and I've also heard it put in other ways, that we do live in the golden lotus world of perfection, the Garden of Eden. Like, this is it. But it's not the world that needs to change. It's our perception, the way that you see it. You're just clouding the way that you see it. It's your mind.
It's just your eyes. Everything's personal attack sometimes. Why is this happening to me? This is, that you got to change your perspective, see through others' eyes. you have the ability to see things in a different way to just change your emotions. Uh, Everybody can do that. You start practicing it, and you'll run out of things that bother you.
Yeah. There's a teacher named Michael Singer, and he talks about how to do that. Like, oh, people say, like, okay, when something big happens to me, how am I possibly going to? I hear what you're saying. I like that. But how do I do it? And he says, practice when it's easy. And Swami Kriyananda says, practice when it's easy. It's those little annoyances. It's the person that cuts you off on the street. It's the person
That's great. Now, I always use the traffic thing because everybody can relate to that. So here's how I would say to do it. What I teach people is first you've got to realize that, okay, this is one of those situations where something's bothering me. Okay. And then you got to say, okay, how can I look at this situation differently? And we can use traffic. Okay, so somebody cut me off. Uh, when have you ever gotten in your car and taken a drive someplace and everybody on the road around you does exactly what you want them to do? Probably never. Right? It's not going to happen. Why do we react? Sometimes you got to admit you're probably the guy that's cutting other people off a lot of times too. But in your head, you don't even realize it, or it's okay. You justify it. Well, that person's going through the same thing. He's just like you. He's just a reflection. It's no big deal. You're taught to react. When you really think about it, is it a big deal? No, it's not. You just see it in a different way. But so first you realize this is one of those situations where I'm being aggravated or something is causing me to be aggravated, probably a knee-jerk reaction in the first place. Just start rethink it some way, however you need to rethink it to where it doesn't bother you. And lose the ego, lose whatever you have to do. And then you pretty soon when things start irritating you, it'll almost become a knee-jerk reaction to rethink it another way. So it just becomes first it's kind of hard, you gotta identify it, and then sooner or later it just becomes just a knee-jerk reaction. Oh, this doesn't bother me. Poof, it doesn't bother me. It just becomes an automatic thing to where you can just extinguish it and just rethink it.
Yeah, it like becomes this little game we can play with ourselves.
Right, exactly. Why? So if I have the ability to feel good or to feel negative, which one do I want to feel? I want to feel good. So if I can have this ability to see things differently so I can feel good or negative, why don't I just go ahead and feel good if I have that ability and take advantage of it and just practice it and it becomes automatic.
Yeah, because we've just been practicing doing the opposite.
Exactly. We've been practicing to find a reason. Exactly. You're so right about that. You're so right about that.
Yeah, we just changed the practice. It's like, okay.
You know how many times I've told people, oh, but I can't do that. They're saying, no, I'm not going to let somebody do that to me. Or they're not doing it to you. You're doing it to you. But you'll talk to somebody and they'll be like, I can't do this. I can't do that. And you'll see them a couple of weeks later and they'll be like, you know what? I can do it. I did it. I started doing what you were saying. And they're like so excited that they can do it. It's like everybody can do it. Yes, yeah.
No, it's a superpower. We have it. We can totally choose whether we want to feel good or not. Yes. It's like you want to be like before the meditations, we do these enthusiasm exercises, that we did together, where you're doing those movements and the affirmation, and you feel silly or whatever. But Yogananda said, if you want to be enthusiastic, then act enthusiastic, and you will be enthusiastic.
Yeah, try to, and you will. It's like. I can't do that. Well, it's probably because you don't try to. Well, I tried. Well, maybe you didn't try hard enough. Try a little harder next time. Yeah. If you try to, you will.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like there was a little thing that I was doing in my brain during meditation. The monkey mind starts coming on, negative thought patterns. And I just started just saying to myself, like, as the programmer of my mind, override previous habitual thought patterns now. Because it's just going to run on automatic until you step in and you say, stop.
Right. Everything's a knee-jerk reaction. We go on remote control. So it just changed that knee-jerk reaction to, like I say, overriding things and seeing things in a different perspective becomes the knee jerk.
Yes. Because it feels better.
Yes, because it feels better. I like feeling better. Feeling better feels so much better.
Yeah. Yeah. And piggybacking on that, it makes me think about too. I heard a couple of teachers, and I know Yogananda puts it in a way too, where they say, stop going around collecting all of the bad memories and replaying them in your mind. Like, why are you doing that? Yogananda says it's a misuse of the gift of your brain. You have this ability to recall moments so that you can bring good ones back into your mind and enjoy those. Don't punish yourself by constantly hanging on to all of
It
it.
comes from watching too much TV. From watching the news.
Yeah.
Programs just to do stupid stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, just like it reinforces all that negativity, number one thing, if you want to feel better in life, stop watching the news, folks. Cut the news off. Put on some nice music, maybe some 432 megahertz, something nice and flowy, and listen to that instead of the news.
Yeah, right. Because if you think about it, like, okay, what is really the benefit that you're getting? I mean, you're gonna hear about all of the big things that matter in the
What about when we didn't have news?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's not normal to know about every bad thing that's happening all over the planet.
That's why, I wanted to start a good news station. I don't know if I told you about that, but some friends of mine, Moon and Magic, and some different people, it's one of the things we talked about is having a good news station where we kind of plug into some different people around the planet on a daily basis, and they give 3 to 5 minutes of what is good happening around them, and only good positive stuff, and compiling it into a little show every day so that people could just tune in to something good every day instead of negative news, just to feed the positivity instead of starting off your day with negative inputs. Start your day with positive inputs. So that may be coming sooner or later. So
Yeah, I love that. That's what we need to be putting into our mind, medicine,
something
good
that
things.
people can tune into every day just to get you feeling good and to start your day.
And guess what? There's going to be no shortage of good things that you can find. Like, there's so much good news, good things, good people, amazing projects people are doing, people coming together during hard times. Like, there's tons of it. Like, that was a big awakening for me. Like, back when I just was starting to listen to podcasts, and many years ago, over maybe a decade and a half or so. So, first it started out with, I was getting into, okay, like mysteries of the universe, ancient civilizations, aliens, Sasquatches, psychedelic experiences, telepathy, all of those cool things. And then eventually, like everyone, and then I start looking into conspiracy theories, and then I start going deeper and deeper into the darkness of, like, where are all the bad things in the world? Who are all the villains? Why am I so unhappy and looking for all the villains? And so I fell into this trap for a long time where I was just looking for all of the negativity things.
Remember as a little kid when the kid goes off into the dark side? It's kind of like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, I'm so glad that I came out of that. And maybe some of you listening here are in that.
Too much time in that darkness can eat you up.
Yeah.
It'll change you. So you got to have yin and yang. If you're going to do that, you have to have some balance. You have to have some, do just the opposite at the same time, or it'll consume you.
Yeah, right. Look at it, like you were saying too, look at it in a different way. Maybe,
Everybody wants to steal my ideas on good news and stuff like that. Go right ahead. I won't hate you.
Everybody should do it. I mean, I think
that's get around to it. You should do it for me.
Yes.
It's only a good thing. I won't get mad.
Yeah, feel free to take that idea. We need everybody doing that.
Yes. It would be a good thing.
Good news all the time.
Yes.
Yeah, like you can totally just switch it. Like what I did is, and, it came because I started noticing I'm not that fun to be around when I always have something negative to say, or I always have some kind of like conspiracy.
So everybody every day get on your Facebook and tell something good.
Mhm.
Get out there and put out some good news every morning. First thing, say, tell everybody what's good in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, say
Start
something.
that algorithm.
If you're gonna like get on your computer and you're gonna write a comment, like why use that time to hurt somebody?
See what happens.
Say
See what
something
happens
nice.
for the collective.
Yeah.
Not a bad idea.
Mhm. Yeah, like it would be so cool if, there could be a broadcast where we just, everybody on the planet for a week, just only put out positive energy.
That's what a concept that is. Boy. How do we get that one to catch fire?
This whole world would transform, I think.
It would. Just collectively, the vibration would go.
Mhm. But how hard is it? Like just like you said, you say to somebody like, okay, when this happens, just change it. No, I can't do that. Oh, you're starting a cult, whatever.
Starting a cult. Right.
Yeah. But yeah, just switching it and looking for good things in the world like that made such a huge thing.
Isn't negativity a cult?
Mm-hmm.
Starting a cult to counteract the cult of negativity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The news cult.
Yeah, that's the biggest lie,
The Fox News cult.
Yeah. Yeah, like that really is, I realize the biggest conspiracy is that they're just trying to divide us all. They're just trying to get us all fighting each other.
That by now, or haven't figured that out by now. It's pretty obvious, folks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the big things that I do in my mind is my mind starts going to negativity, or if I can, sometimes my mind is judgmental against things or people or stuff. And I don't like that at all. I don't like that feeling. So I just repeat the word love in my head until I start feeling love. It's like so much better to just kind of make that little mental switch.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. It's been awesome getting to chat with you and to see your adventure. I was happy that you were at that last ceremony because I had heard your property was totally underwater, so I was hoping I would get to see you.
The next one is in Sarasota on the 6th and 7th, I think, or the 7th and 8th, whatever that Friday and Saturday are.
Yeah, here in December.
Anybody interested, get a hold of Monica through that website, you can get a schedule of upcoming events after that as well. Couple locations in Florida. I think they do one in Homestead down by Monica, and then normally up in Tampa or Dade City. We're going to Sarasota this next one. I'll be there.
Yeah,
I don't miss any of them anymore.
Yeah. We'll put links to the website there so you can check the different cities that they're going to be in. And this group comes every 2 months.
Yeah, let me know if you ever come to a group that you saw it here on this podcast. I'd be interested to hear.
Yeah.
If we reached anybody.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, let us know. If this conversation.
Share this podcast if you like it. Share it with your friends. Tell them about it. It's kind of in the infancy, right? So it's going to blow up here real quick. So Chris has been practicing.
Yeah. Yeah, 54 episodes in. I feel like I've just been practicing this whole time, and now I'm really, getting comfortable bringing over guests. This was actually the first one that I've done in person. We usually do it over Zoom. We're actually in the same room together here. So this was good. I'm just learning the ropes of like how to actually do that, sit across from each other.
Great. I like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so thanks for being the first in-person guest.
My pleasure. I feel honored. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Namaste.
Yeah, it's so good to have you. And I always like to end our podcast with some words from Yogananda. I flipped through, I got a series of books of his sayings here, and I always kind of pick one that I feel like maybe would be relevant to our conversation. So before we close, I'd just like to read this, and then we'll send everyone on their way. And we're really happy that you were here with us and for tuning into this. And I'm going to put links to John's contact there. So if you want to get in touch with him and share anything with him and come see us at a ceremony sometime, that would be wonderful. Well, excellent. So we'll leave everybody with some words from Yogananda. This is a book called How to Live Without Fear. And that's really what the goal of practice of all of these things is, just to be able to live life without fear. That's what a Jedi does. You know? You can walk through life with all of this adversity, all of these things. It's not like it's not like when, when the great masters become fully enlightened, that no longer do they have to face any challenges. It's just they're not afraid of challenges, and they see that everything doesn't happen to crush us, but to strengthen us. So I think this is a really great example of that. I know John was destroyed. His physical body, who he was completely annihilated, and then he was rebuilt back to the version of himself that it has the strength to get through this and to rebuild again. And it's cool to see the infancy of the Kamentsa Inga Church, the Ayahuasca Church. This is kind of like the beginning of all of that, and seeing that rebuild. I know, I'll tell this story before we close too. I remember I was telling you that my group Ananda in California, when they first built the on the property there that they had in Nevada City, California, they started a community there, a spiritual community, Disciples of Yogananda, and it was a few years after they had built houses, they had gotten, running water going and electricity and all of this, and wildfire came and burnt the whole village to the ground. I think there was only like a couple of structures still standing there.
Wow.
And this was like, oh, so you start thinking like, why does this happen? And one of the cool stories with that is Swami Kriyananda, who started Ananda Village in 1969. The wildfire that came, actually, it was a government vehicle that had some faulty wiring, and that sparked and caught that vehicle on fire, and then that spread and caught the neighborhood, that area on fire. So the government was coming around and giving money to everybody who suffered from the fire. And when they came to talk to Swami Kriyananda, he told them that we came to this area to give, to not to take. And so we're not going to take any money. We're going to raise it all back again ourselves. And actually, even the community members that got cold feet about the community after this happening and wanted to leave, all of the members pulled their money together and gave all their money to the people who wanted to go live somewhere else, because they said they're going to need it more than we do. And they rebuilt it back again, and it's just this beautiful, thriving community that's been running since 1969. There's an incredible temple of light that they finally finished the construction on there, that's nestled in the forest. And so it reminds me, you think about where you're at in your journey. It's like just going through these trial by fire, by flood. It strengthens you, and it makes the story much more interesting, and that it empowers that. Just means that, you're on the right track, and you're being rebuilt to be someone that has got, great work to do here for the benefit of humanity and everybody that comes to your space. So just want to empower you with that. I can see that that's what's happening to you as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Well, we'll close here. I'll read this, and we will see you guys again next time. Yogananda says, calmness is another divine experience. The aspect of God is more dynamic and powerful than that of peace. Calmness gives the devotee power to overcome obstacles in his life. Even in human affairs, the person who can remain calm under all circumstances is invincible. Accept with unruffled mind whatever comes. I often say, what comes of itself, let it come. This is just as true for the bad things as it is for the good. Only calmness will give you a sense of correct proportion. It will inspire you to behave with unfailing good sense. Blessings, everyone. See you again next time.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please like, subscribe, and share this episode with a friend. Leave us a comment. Also visit the Seekers of the Eternal online store for artist series, t-shirts, hoodies, prints, and much, much more designed by visual artist Pale Horse.